Thanks, Gregor. Afternoon, Paul. What can you tell us about Blake Wheeler?
So Blake's not making the trip with us. He took the elbow last game, was fine, felt good, started to feel a little off yesterday. Then today started not feeling great. So we don't have the words concussion. We don't have a diagnosis on that yet, but we're going to treat it as it is, just because we're all obviously really careful with these things. So we're not bringing him. We don't want him flying in and out until we know exactly what's going to happen here. So he's out. I guess I'll say indefinitely until we get get this cleared up.
We'll go next to Jason Bell from the Winnipeg Free Press. Go ahead, Jason.
Well, that kind of changes things up for me. How do you sue things here for Montreal? I mean, sometimes you see Andrew pop up in the top line or get shifted around a bit. Do we know yet what you're going to do with that top six?
Yeah. Well, it's not so much that he was playing with. We're going to move Andrew into where Blake was, and then we'll move Matty Perreault into Andrews and Hark into Perreault's spot. So we're going to move Andrew Kopp over to a position he hasn't really played before, but it's also something, Andrew and I talked about this about a month ago, 2 months ago. We don't have a lot of lefties that can play the right, and finding one that can, and he's had some time there over his career. I think I got lots of confidence in his ability to read the game from that side of the ice. He's generated kind of from that side of the ice. So we're going to give it a run. We don't, 5 games is, I guess, long-term, but we don't think this is necessarily something we're going to have to deal with, hopefully for a long period of time, but I would like to see it. So we'll give Andrew Kopp that spot, and I'll leave the other lines the same in terms of Shifes, but we may play with it a little bit here on this trip.
We'll go next to Paul Friesen from the Winnipeg Sun. Go ahead, Paul.
Thanks, Gregor. Paul, when that hit happened up in the press box, we were having a debate about, whether he should be a quiet room and all that. It looked to me like just an abrasion, when you saw his mark. Right. I guess it was more solid than it appeared, maybe.
I mean, that's the real tough part is you don't know, right? There's video that you see a guy get knocked out with a punch and he's back on the ice 3 days later because that's the protocol we have. Blake felt fine. Like when he got to the bench, he said he felt fine. It was kind of a visor abrasion on his face. He said he felt good, left the game, felt good, So we just kind of follow the rules and we're probably actually ahead of the rules right now. Again, we don't have a diagnosis of that yet, but we're just going to treat it like that is just in case and kind of go from there.
We'll go next to Scott Billick from the Sun. Go ahead, Scott.
Hey, Paul. I was going to ask you about Mark Scheifele being a GM, but I think this has kind of changed. But Blake Wheeler, would he be able to come onto the trip then? Like I know, let's say, like I'm guessing he's in protocol right now. So, right. But if it's not a concussion or whatever happens, would he be able to join you, or is that just he's not coming?
The rules would be that he would have to fly privately, is my understanding, right? We wouldn't be able to bring him in commercially, but we haven't thought about that. We don't want him on a flight. We don't want him in the air on an airplane until we know, and we're just making that decision now because we can.
Just a couple more for Coach. We'll go back to Jason Bell. Go ahead, Jay.
Paul, then maybe we go back to that play. Have you looked at that play a few times? Did you have some concern about the way it happened? You see those kind of back hits sometimes. It's kind of an odd play.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at it. It's a penalty. And I'll leave that rest a minute. I don't think I got another opinion on that one.
And final question to Ken Weaver from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Weaver.
Paul, what does this mean for Jansen Harkins? We've talked about how hard he's worked for an opportunity. I mean, what are you expecting from him as he jumps back in?
It's funny the way things happen, because he and I talked on the ice probably 3 days ago about how unusual this year's been, for Harkins, Heinola, Niku, these guys that are right on the cusp of playing, but you've stayed healthy. And if you looked at our schedule and if you had followed our history over the last 5 years, you'd have thought these guys would never miss a game, right? You're never that healthy. So just gave him the old, hang in there, work hard. And he's been good about that. Like, his guy's got a good work ethic. So I'm expecting him to kind of come in with lots of legs and lots of energy and the game that and he's playing with the two right guys. right? That's a real direct, and simple isn't the right word, but it's a very predictable game. His, Thompson and Lewis play. So I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to, get right in there, and you're not going to see a lot of signs of rust, because what he's going to bring to that line, speed, physicality, if he can get that shot off, he's got a big shot. Those things you can do, right? Even if you've been off a long time, you can skate hard, you can finish your checks, you can battle pucks out. And then as you get into the rhythm, you start making some plays.